Welcome gamers to episode 1. This is going to be the first of the sort of gameplay type videos. This will be an important one in terms of just what to look for with your first turn, and we're going to generate like essentially like a random world and just go from there. And I'm going to talk about all the different aspects about what's important and what to look for as you go through planet generation. So let's go and start a new game. Oh, before I get started, special thank you to my Patreon supporters. Thanks, guys. Also, if you support me on kofi.com/DasTactic, links for these are down below. That's awesome. If you do want to grab the game, I've got a Nexus game store. Also on my Kofi page, listed down below, is the mod that I'm using, which gives me the look of the terrain. I can't play the game without that mod, even though I made it myself. It's the one mod that I really find just helps me so much with trying to figure out what's going on the planet. So let's just go in and start a new game. Without further ado, let's get into it. We'll roll this one forward. Come on, game. We're going to be playing Unclassified, which is sort of like a random one. In the video that I did introducing this series and going through the different approaches for different planets, I generated a few unclassifieds at the end. You can see how wildly different they can be. So this could be anything. So let's just go that way. We're going to go with spread out for the majors, nothing else selected back and through here. I'm going to change to detailed planet generation. We're now going to talk about every single aspect of planet generation. I won't go overboard with it, but I'll let you know what impacts the different aspects of the other things in the game itself. Just so that if you are generating a planet, sometimes you'll generate a planet and you'll be re-rolling and re-rolling on one of the screens without realizing it's the previous few screens that may have impacted why you can't roll what you're looking for, particularly around getting life and things like that. So I'll talk about those sorts of things just so you're aware of what is going on with the planet generation. It's amazing what does go on through here. Now, I can turn on the air forces. I might keep the Oceania DLC features off in this instance, just so we don't actually have them to worry about. It does add a bit of complexity to the game, and I want to keep this one fairly user-friendly. I am going to be playing on regular mode, which I should be able to beat fairly consistently. It can provide a bit of a challenge. If you're a beginning player, then please play on beginner. Even if you're unsure about how to play the game, play on beginner. Hard is probably going to give me a better run for my money. Let's play on hard. This one is going to make it more difficult for me to then sort of get ahead. But let's see how we go. I'm going to have to play very strategically to win on hard. Okay, we'll play with 2 armies per zone. Big tip, play on tech level 4, whether you're an advanced player or a beginning player. Again, I think I said in my last video that I know those of you that will disagree with this because some of you are purists and like to start on the default, which is tech level 3. But it makes it so much easier just to get into the game with tech level 4 selected. It gives you a whole other pool of technology that you can then go and play with, which is very, very nice. So we'll just go continue. Now, in this one here, we're going to be playing with... so this is a planetology. This essentially is how your planet was generated, like when it was formed. And so this was formed 1.4 billion years ago. It's around an orange KO star. It's only basically 0.6 astronomical units away, which means it's sort of like probably around about the orbit of, say, Venus, maybe in around there somewhere. But a KO class star is quite a cold star, and you can see through here the temperature is very, very cold. Back and through this other side, and we hardly have any watts per meter in through here with the solar irradiance, so it means that solar panels are not going to be all that effective. So let's talk about all of these different aspects. Gravity, this is going to be a very, very small world, so it's going to be not that great for, the gravity won't impact us that much. The temperature at -36, this means that there's not going to be any freestanding water on the planet. It's just everything's going to be either ice or snow if there is water. The solar irradiance means that it's going to be hardly any power coming through with solar panels. The planetary age, 1.4 billion years. There may be life that forms on it in 1.4, but it'll be very, very simple. It might probably just be vegetation. If we have higher than this, like around about, sort of, say, 2 billion years, we may start to get sort of animals. Maybe towards 3 billion years, we may even get sentient life. So just be aware that that's actually going to be a big factor as to how things go. Now, if you're under say 500 million years, you'll never ever get life on the world. So it's pretty much usually they're on sort of either white or blue class stars. Will then end up with very, very small planetary ages. I might sort of roll a few of these so you can see what I mean. That's the map size is quite small. Heavy elements means that the mining on this world is going to be really, really atrocious. So at 53%. So we're looking for anywhere, pretty much over 100% if we can do it. Let's just re-roll. If we want to get mining done. If we don't have this one, it means that building anything out of metal is going to be very, very slow. So let's just do a re-roll, see what we get. This one is a hot world. It's also an orange-red K5 star, where we're very, very close to it. The solar irradiance is now very, very high, so solar panels will now work very, very well. Planetary age is high at 5 billion years, and but still have very low heavy elements at 64%. Let's reject that one because of the heavy elements. This is 81%, a little bit better, 3.2 billion years. I don't care about alien life, to be honest, one way or another, for this particular run. The tilt through here also does impact things. When you've got a slow spin, it generally means that there'll be atmosphere that will actually stay around the planet, which will give you a more dense atmosphere, which will make aircraft viable. So quite often a slow spin means viable for aircraft. That's just often that's the way it will sort of then go and work. The tilt will usually mean that you end up with seasons that will sort of work fairly well across the actual planet itself. That you get some variance with things freezing or thawing or rainfall, things like that will be impacted by the tilt. So this one here, I'm still not happy with the heavy elements. Let's just re-roll. 77, still not happy with the elements. 146 is actually pretty good. So this one here is actually a frozen world with very, very dramatic tilt in through this other side. The spin is fairly fast. This is around a yellow-white FO star, but it's a fair distance away. I'm tempted to still go back in and try to get something a little bit more temperate, just so we're not playing on a frozen world the whole time. Let's just go and re-roll. 84 is not good enough. 60, 104, 13 degrees, 5.6 billion years. This is probably going to be and we've got fairly average, this is fairly good solar irradiance, so the solar panels will actually work reasonably well on this world. 5.6 billion years, this is likely to have sentient aliens. So let's go and play with this one here. This is very, very close to this orange-red K5 star, so it's very, very close in. But these are cold, like the more red a star becomes, the more cold they actually burn. So, but they burn for longer. So with a like an orange-red star, you can actually have a very high planetary age in through there. Heavy elements is just average. Do I want to do that one? I might re-roll it just a little bit more, just to get a little bit more metal. 116, 60 degrees, 5 billion years, a very hot world. Again, this is an orange-red K5 star that we actually have. The tilt is not too bad. Slow spin cycle, so aircraft will be viable in this world. Most likely we'll have life on this world as well. I'm happy with this one. Let's just go for it. But it's going to be very, very hot. So we won't be able to build Terran plants probably won't work on this world. Maybe around the poles, it may be able to have it. But overall, it's a very, very hot planet. So let's go for it. Continue. So there are all the different aspects that do kick in. Now, in this case, we have no water in this case. So this one here has got a... we've got a thin atmosphere, actually, which isn't great. So 317. Generally, if your wind speed is another indicator of the actual atmosphere itself. If the wind speed is, and I didn't actually have a look. If I look at the previous step, the gravity is 0.3 g, and so if you have a look at the bars, like in this case, it's 0.3 bar. So it's about even with what does go on through there in terms of aircraft, but it's not really ideal. So I'd like to have a bit more than what we see through this other side. You can see there that the Arctic does sort of stay within a range, and the Antarctic as well. So the poles are actually okay for generating life, or for actually allowing farming, except that we've got no water on the actual surface. So let's re-roll again and see what happens with the bars. A bit better. It's still a thin atmosphere. We do actually have rainfall this time. We've got 15%. This is actually looking pretty good, and very heavy rainfall, 6,000 millimetres in through here. So this one should generate life. That may then impact. This is probably going to be a very cloudy world, so it's going to be a bit of a hell world. You can see through there that we no longer have temperatures that are really all that comfortable on this particular world because of I guess greenhouse effects and things like this. That one's viable for aircraft, sort of. Maybe we'll just generate a couple more and just sort of see how we go. I look at also at mountains. I don't want the mountains to be too much. 3%. Temperatures are still pretty high there. It may be viable. These are the rainfall isn't as bad or as much as what it was before. This could end up being a jungle world, I would think. I might just re-roll one more time. Yep, this is much more oceans, a lot more rainfall. Very hot on the poles now. I wouldn't mind trying to get back so that the poles are actually viable for farming. But this is a massive amount of rainfall that we sort of see through the planet. Again, I can just sort of zoom back out and have a bit of a look at it. Interesting world in terms of it being sort of so open with what does go on. But with it being 5 billion years old, there's definitely going to be life forms everywhere. But this is actually an interesting world in terms of choke points. I quite like the look of this. And we've turned off the maritime trade houses, so they're not going to be really sort of kicking in. I'm tempted to play this, I'm tempted to play it with that much oceans. It's most likely going to be jungle fighting the whole time, which again is just a different way of playing the game. It just is going to mean very, very slow movement if that's the case. I might re-roll again. Let's just see if we can get something with it. It's got like less rainfall. Still 2,000, still a fair few oceans in through there. Very, very hot around the poles. Look, let's go for it. We've got 400, so we've actually got fairly it's a modest atmosphere this time at 0.4 bars. So it's not as it's going to be hard to breathe on it, but that will do us. Let's just leave it here. We have fairly moderate rainfall, but this will actually be good for us as well. We should have reasonable rainfall across the whole planet. Let's have a quick look and see what actually happens in through here. Yeah, so we're getting like 3,000 up through there. We're getting some areas are down to like 1,000, but no matter where we go, water is not going to be a problem on this world. Maybe in here it would be a bit of a problem, but overall there's solid rainfall everywhere, and there's some interesting little choke points in through here as well. So let's just go and have a bit of a look back in through this other side. There's not really big mountains. There's a few mountains around the place, but they're not massive. So let's leave it here. Let's just go continue. So now we have the biosphere. Well, this is interesting. It's just moss and grass, and I'm actually quite happy with that, to be honest, because what this would then do, we get 7-meter herbivores back in through here, no sentient aliens on this particular one. We have sodium dioxide is the main this insidious atmosphere. There's no xenobiological hazard, no atmospheric farming hazard at all. The alien itself, these big herbivores, and these are fairly advanced, but there's no sentient life. These are low value for eating. There's only mosses and grasses, but the atmospheric hazard because of this sulfur dioxide, sulfur dioxide, I think, is essentially going to mean instant death. This is an interesting one. We have a pH of 0, so it's actually really, really acidic. So we've got basically sulfuric acid, I think, is what it's going to be sort of going through there. The actual seawater is also sulfuric acid. So this is a sulfuric acid world. So we're not going to have anything. The rainfall that comes is going to be really, really minimal. So maybe we'll just re-roll again and just see what else we get. I don't really want big jungles everywhere, so I'm really tempted to play with this one because of the open areas. But water is now going to be a problem because of the pH of the water that is actually there. We'd still be able to get some of it. I'm tempted to start this one, This one is interesting with what we actually have, but there's just no large plants here at all. We can look at auxiliary information as well, by the way, to see what sort of things they have. The biosphere details. There are there's land plants And in fact, there are sea herbivores and sea carnivores, but there's no land animals. So that's actually interesting to sort of see that one. I think we'll just re-roll again. But if we end up with a jungle world, actually that's not a jungle world at all. This one's interesting. The planet has micro organisms. I don't really want that either. So this one here is again sulfur dioxide, and we'll just re-roll. Xenon, we have grasses on this one for forests. We do actually have 9-meter carnivores, but there's nothing else really on this one. There's no sentient life forms here, and I'm happy enough with that. The rain pH is better this time. Let's have a quick look and see what we've got. So we've got a lot of grasses in through here. Just zoom back out. We do have some forests in the top, but grasses is actually okay. This is actually not bad. I think I'll actually go with this one. The colours are a bit weird, but that's just, the way that this is just an alien world with sulfur. Well, actually, what is the oceans like? Yeah, the pH of the seawater is still fairly acidic. Even the rainwater is going to be fairly acidic, but it will be okay. Now, it means the atmospheric human hazard is imperfect. The bugs, the viruses on the planet are fairly aggressive. It's toxic for farming, and through here we won't be able to do open farming anyway because of the temperature, so we couldn't do that one. There are forests available. The hazard exposure level is impaired vitals, so we do need to wear enviro suits out through here, but it's almost could just be filters. So it could be a bit on the a bit of a 50-50 sort of bet there, whichever way they go. But I'm thinking with the aggressive viruses, they would probably end up needing to be wearing enviro suits everywhere anyway. So this looks interesting. I think we'll actually play with this one here because tanks are going to have a good fun on this particular world. It's going to present some challenges for us to get established, but overall that looks pretty good. We've got the water salinity is not all that high. Heavy metals in the water is 997 parts per billion, but it's not very much in the soil. So that's actually, it still should be okay for us. Let's just go across to the next one. Just zoom back up. We'll just go and continue. So now we're going to have colonization. Now I don't care too much about what happens, but you can see the mining was actually okay, and services then became okay at 20 million. Let's just roll a little bit more. Let's just aim for around about anything over 50 million, but not dramatically big. Just we've got a bit of a history. 344 million, that's actually okay. So by this time we did start off with mining. So we've got mining sectors coming. We then end up going to agricultural actually, which is interesting. Special deposits are finding, again, more mining all the way through. There's a bit of a history here, and these will then have a bearing on the actual game itself. So by having this many people, there will be some biggish cities. Like if we have a bit of a look around, we've got Romanus and through this side, Mabario, just to zoom back out and have a bit of a look. Landfall is always where you're going to start off, where they're going to actually hit the surface. Where is that? There we go, landing. So landing is actually is where we started, and so landing over through here is where the biggest city actually was, and so ultimately this is like a mega city at this point in time. So I just get across there, and so this is actually where we made landfall, and it became the capital city of the actual planet itself. Then we've got smaller outcrops around the place, so there's not going to be that many ruins. A bit of some build up of cities back and through there. Most of them are just going to be smallish though. Again, this looks interesting. There's enough ruins to be interesting ultimately when we get started. So, and again, reasonably sized sort of cities back and through here as well. So let's just go across into the map in through this other side. I'm happy with this. Just go continue. So now we have the Disillusion War. We can re-roll these now. You used to not be able to do this one, but you can re-roll if you're not happy with, for example, if you end up with just stuff where there's radiation everywhere or something like that, you don't want to have it, you can actually go and change that. And so I won't read all this, but we're down to basically 1 million survivors. There was a lot of farmers here actually, which is interesting. So this is again going to be relatively easy to deal with the local population. I do have a house rule of trying not to use the Foreign Affairs Council, but if that would make this one viable to actually win diplomatically because of the amount of farmers. There's still a lot of scavengers as well. no hunters, of course, but there are farmers on the actual planet. So there's a bit of a history there, different sorts of things that happened with the original names of everything. So powerful raider clan decided to set an example and killed all their enemies in Mabario. So different places, and then the survivors there actually committed mass suicide, etc., etc. So religious cult briefly takes prominence and uses nuclear weapons to destroy Zetherio and Redalum. If we go and hide this one, we should see, because this was fairly recent, this goes for 266 years, by the way, this particular war. And so we end up with no real prospects at the end of that in terms of being able to like our technology is completely gone. Now, look, we're just looking for radiation somewhere on the planet. There we go. This would be the old ruins of in through this other side. So you can see there, these have been nuked. Very high radiation through these different areas. But this becomes sort of really unlivable at those particular points. Okay, so let's now just go forward and can keep on going. We'll just go in and go continue. That's the summary, which we just went through everything. So interesting planet. Again, every planet is completely different, but we will actually have fuel. We've got water. So I've made sure we've got a bit of everything, so we don't have to get too stuck down trying to just get basic resources. Let's start our game. This is Sotelia 3. Now, it's Black Hole Shire. I'll probably change that one. I do have one of my logos available, so I'm just going to grab one of the DasTactic logos. I'll keep the primary colour. I might just change this one to more of a yellowy sort of colour. But I'll keep that one through there. Black Hole Shire. I'll call it Dasopolis. Dasopolis. There we go. So Dasopolis Empire. And look, with I'm going to just, when I go through the next set, I'm just going to pick whatever's on A, because it does randomize. That way we won't know exactly what we're going to have. So we'll just click on OK. And as we click on these, so it's going to be enforcement, is that profile. Fist, so we're going to be fairly aggressive. Okay, I prefer heart, but anyway, fist will be okay. And democracy. Okay, so it's going to be a fairly hard-hitting democracy with those other two things that we've ended up getting. They don't have a massive bearing in the game, but they do have a bit of a bearing. So let's just go back in. So you're chairman of the Dasopolis Empire. So we'll just click on these. Now we did get a fat merchant. This is a good one for us to sort of generate different things. Nothing much else there. Rebellion is an interesting one to get. It can give you a lot of fate points at the start of the game, which can be quite useful. The fate points have been changed in the game, though, I've got to say. We've got the Ascension speech. Now I prefer to come back and look at these afterwards. We've actually got. I just like to see what we've got. National decisions. We need to create one of our councils. And then we have unit decisions back in through here as well. So we'll have a look at all of these things as we get into it. Let's just close them off for now and see where we are. So welcome to command. Now this is the only message we actually have. If there was any animals or anything nearby that was going to cause us any sort of issues, then we get a warning. We didn't get one. Let's have a look. So we're starting in the North Pole, which is at least one of the more temperate areas of the planet itself. And now let's just go through and just sort of set the game up, so that we can get things sort of established. Now, I'll try not to just always use keyboard shortcuts, or if there's ones that I use all the time, I'll show you where they are, and then I'll show you why I'm doing different things. Now, the first thing I like to do is to come back into here, which is our map order modes. Actually, not the map order modes, this one here, which is the map layer bar. And so in through here, we have different map layers we can turn on. Now, by default, I don't think any of those are turned on. I like to turn on the grid, so we can see that the actual grid of where the hexes actually are. I like to turn on the show color for the outside areas, and I like to turn on the show operational logistics. This is probably the most important of them, because what that will then do is it will tint colors going from green through to yellowish, through to blue, through to red. And if it's red, it means it's going to have very, very difficult time getting supplies out to that particular location. And the reason that's so difficult is because it's going through forest. I'll explain this again, but I might even do it now. Actually, I might as well just go and do a bit of a deep dive. This will be a fairly long video, but why is that one red and other ones aren't? It's really coming, well, this one's actually, I think, a yellow that we sort of see through here. I wish there was also an indicator or a way of seeing what the actual amount of supply is that does go through to these different areas. If I click on that forest that's actually up there and have a look at the actual forest and just hover over it, you'll see a few different sorts of things in through this other side. One of them should be the actual organic supply is 20 to go through to that location. Down the bottom through there, like down towards the bottom of that list under movement types. So there's organic supply of 20 to go through that one through there. The ruins, hover over that one through there, organic supply of only 12. So you can get through the ruins pretty quickly. The blue that so we can see that one's yellow. This one's here is blue. If we just go back and hover over this one is organic supply. It's going to be 20 again. It's going to be 20 in through there again as well. And so we're sort of losing supply until we get out onto these plains, into these grassy plains, and then the organic supply is only 12 again. So the more difficult the terrain, the more difficult it is for the supply to go from the roads out through to the extreme edges. So roads will help. So that's actually one thing that we want to do, but we don't want to have too many units back out there. Now, having said that, if we do actually have a unit into a red zone, they will still get supply and they'll always get all the food that they require if they can get it. And so if we have a unit, for example, this unit here was moved out to that location, it would then track a line of supplies back to the closest road. And that would then get its food that way. Now, every single unit's going to have different sorts of supply. These guys here, if we just click on the supply indicator, we're in the second area across through here, but if we just click on that one through there, we can see that this one doesn't require any replacements. It does want to have food, and so it's actually, it wants to have ammo if it uses ammo. That's the only resources it uses up. If we go to something a bit more complex, we'll see this one's got fuel as well as ammunition and food as well. So everything sort of has got like different ways of working, but I'll talk about this when we start to sort of move our forces around and sort of show what they actually then go and do. Anyway, we're still setting up the actual map itself. I'll just go and click over there. So that's the first thing I like to do, is to set these up. But the operational logistics, it shows me these danger areas that I've got to try to manage at one way or another. And it's going to be, I think once we actually pick up this, we'll find that it's going to be easier for us to then go, if I go and click on that one there, the Savannah, is the operational logistics is only 15. So I can actually go through the Savannah, and that would actually then make it easier to get the supply up to there if we did have a unit up there, which we don't really need. But it just shows you how it then does work. Roads, the other thing I like to set up as well is to always turn on this top one, which is current points. This is the logistics points. I like to have that one on all the time. So I'm just going to go and click on that one. And this is showing me how much logistics I've got along the actual road itself. Now, some of these, I don't know if it'll actually show it in through here. If we just go to used points, it is showing it, because this is the logistics of how we are getting supplies out to the different units. If I turn the units off, and these are turned off by clicking this one here, which is the number 1 key. So I can turn that one off. They're now tracking back to get their supplies pretty much from the main headquarters is where they're getting them from. But eventually, if we go to a used points, we'll see where they're all getting their supplies from just by tracking things back. The numbers that we see through here are indicators of the supply that's being used at different locations, and it's a combination. If it's red, it means it's an actual building. If it's green, it means it's a unit that's taking the supply. So that's how that one does work. I'll talk about that in much more detail though later on. I just like to have current points turned on. Now, some of these are not going to be important for me at all, so I'll come back to how we then make better use of this and what all these mean. So I'll talk about that probably in the next episode, maybe. I'll see how I go, because there's a few things we want to evaluate before we get into the logistics. I just like to have it turned on. So they're the things I have turned on by default, and I use the number 1 key a lot just to see what's going on underneath the actual units. So they get turned on or off an awful lot when we're not actually playing the game itself. Once we've done that, the first thing, let's say we just turn off the units by pressing number 1. We can see through here that we actually have water. You always have some sort of source of water, but we don't actually have an ice mine there. Do we need an ice mine? Let's just evaluate, first of all, like what we did in the last episode, is water viable? And that has changed a lot in the game. So if we just go across to items down the bottom through here, we can then sort of see we're actually getting plus 2.8 K of water. So there's a lot of water produced. So 2,777 water produced in the actual zone itself, which is awesome. So we're actually getting a lot of rainfall. If we go and have a look at this guy through here, we're getting a lot of rainfall in through here. Now the pH is 7, so it's perfect. And so in that case, the rain quality is 100%. We're not getting any problems at all with the rainfall falling at this location, and it's very, very high. The trouble is going to be if we need to then make use of solar panels, because this is going to make the solar panels a bit more diminished. So we might evaluate those things as well at the start here and just get a bit of a feel for how we have to then play the game. But rainfall, water, not an issue at all. We don't need an ice mine. If we had an ice mine, we would close it down based on the rainfall alone. So rainfall is not going to be an issue at all. The farming does rely on the rainfall, and so we do actually have certain farming coming through here. Nowhere on the planet is going to have a problem with water, which means we're not going to be able to sell water. We're not going to be able to make it into a viable resource. Maybe this first turn we could, so we may look at doing that as well. The next thing I like to look at, now that we sort of can see that we're not going to have any real big problems anywhere. In fact, we just have a quick look down through here. This is level 6 mine, fair few metals in there as well. We should find other metals as we start to sort of play the game. There's a few things we can look at and just do an evaluation of the planet itself. Let's just do that one next. So let's just go back up into our reports, up through here, and we want to go and have a look at the help file. And the most important aspect of the help file is the very, very first one, and possibly the second one if it's not too hot. And so this one gives us essentially a summary. So this is a here's a summary of the key planetary statistics for the planet Certelia 3. So rainfall is regular. It's and we need low. Normal filters can concentrate. So I think that's the actual unknowns. That's basically there's low requirement to filter things. So normal filters can just concentrate the actual water. So water is not going to be a problem there. So this tells us the same sort of deal. Exposure hazard level 1, so vascular forests, earth size. This is sort of like the so this is actually not really too much of a problem. The respiratory hazard, actually I don't know why it's showing this in through here, to be honest. There's like another whole other area. Yeah, that's actually giving us other. This looks like it's actually missed where it's supposed to be. I think it's actually gone off into other zones. Let's just concentrate on this first panel in through here. Exposure hazards are low. Respiratory hazards are low. Biohazards are reasonably high. The Terran agricultural atmospheric toxicity is fairly high, and the alien nutritional toxicity is very high. So we don't want to be eating the alien creatures. Rain scarcity, now this is where it should actually be coming back down through here, I think. So rain scarcity is level 0, so there's no scarcity, and this should then line up with that. Okay, so that's where that one should be. Oxygen scarcity is 1, so there's a little bit. It's low oxygen, but normal filters will concentrate the oxygen. That's actually where that one should be going up. I don't know why it's gone off, but anyway, that's a bit of a bug. They'll most likely be fixed. The plant development levels are level 3, which means it's vascular forest and earth-size forest, so we do actually have some forest there. The geological activity there's no longer any geological activity, and there hasn't been any for 128 million years. So we won't be able to use volcanoes or any sort of volcanic energy tapping or anything like that on this particular planet. Some planets we would be able to, but not this one. Heavy elements 116, so it is viable for mining. Not fantastic, but it's not too bad. So a little bit better than on Earth. Gravity is 0.3. The atmospheric density is 40%. Now, as long as that 40% is higher than the percentage of gravity, essentially, it means it's going to be usually viable for aircraft, but it will tell us at the bottom here. So aircraft advisable is light propeller / jet, and so that means we can actually make aircraft viable. As we come back through other things, we've then got the atmospheric composition is 94%, and then we actually have the various compositions there. This one should be lining up. So we've got 5.56 for xenon, I think. Actually, 94 is xenon. Oxygen is 5.56. I wish this was lining up. I don't know why it's not. carbon dioxide, methane. We've got a very trace elements of methane, unfortunately, so we can't really get methane. No, we won't need it, but anyway, that's there as well. And then the others sort of all start to sort of come down with parts per million a bit deeper in. Farming method is going to have to be domed farming. Methane synthesis mod is 0%, so we can't get methane out of the atmosphere. Deep core gas is also 0%. Solar panels is good, so we end up with a good amount. Even with the high rainfall, we're still getting a lot of irradiance, and so the solar panels will actually be fairly good, although the rainfall will still dictate and drop that a little bit. So the rainfall will be a bit of a problem unless we can find some areas of the planet without much rainfall. And so typically under 1,000 would actually be viable to make it then sort of work fairly well for power. Dissolved metals in the sea is 886 parts per billion. Dissolved metals in the soil is only 1 part per billion. And then pH 7, so it's very, very neutral for all the pHs everywhere. And that's pretty much just gives us a summary of the planet. We don't have to look at the other bits and pieces. That sort of works in fairly well. So we can close that one off. The next thing we need to evaluate is the people that we've got, and then finally the models that we have. And these just give us all a bit of a picture as to where we need to move forward with the planet. All right, so we go now up to the management screen up through here. And this is something I would always do for every single game. And we're just going to go across. We've got the assets we have. I always like to have a quick look at these and just sort of see, like, just make sure that you've got whatever the town is that you've got selected, and just have a quick look and see what's actually there. It just gives you a bit of a feel for what's being drained away and what you may be able to save things on. If you've got any yellows at all shown in through here or reds, it means you've got to act on them this turn. In this case, we're okay. We've got the water is fine. The food is fine. Everything is actually okay. Sometimes you'll find that particularly around your water, will actually be yellow or red because there won't be any being produced or not enough being produced. You have to address it their first turn if that's the case. We don't have to because of the rainfall. So the rainfall is saving our bacon there a little bit. As we have a bit of a look through, we can sort of see that we've got, this is what we actually get from different things. Like we're getting oil from here. We're then spending oil for the truck station and also for the airbase. I always like to have a look at those. We also then have energy requirements, which are sort of being drained out. All of these are different. These different things require energy. We have, these are all the public sector buildings. This has changed recently as well, where you now always start off with your, particularly at tech level 4, usually you'll have an industry element to start with. The recycling will be under your control, which is important. It used to be under the private sector, and the truck station will be under your control as well. So these were sort of no-brainers you had to try to fix in the old way of playing the game. The new way just gives you those at the start because it knows that you're going to end up going that way. Now, this is interesting. We've got a carbon battery in through here. We're getting 100 energy. Sometimes you won't end up with anything this strong, but in this case, we have got like a lot of energy that is being generated, so we don't have to worry about it too much. Sometimes that will be quite low, and you need to then manage it. So energy is looking okay. We do have a police station and school, so we're getting education points, and we also have security points back in through here as well. We have a dome farm being produced where it's producing a lot of food, and it's providing us with another 230 food. And we have our own dome farm level 2 here, producing 560 food for our use. And so this is all good stuff. That's all sort of works in fairly well. Nothing much in there that we have to really concern ourselves with. Only 56 industrial points. We should get more than that because we'll find more of it. So if we have a look at the industrial points in through here, you can see there, even though we're only generating 56, we're actually generating more than that, 108. If I hover over that one there, you can see there that the industry is producing 56, but the service tax of the actual people is actually generating another 52. So we're getting a lot of industrial points just from our population, which is sort of, it's interesting the way that sort of works as well. But just be aware that the numbers you see here, it will be a little bit different usually over here because of different reasons. Consuming 108 and we're producing 100. So we're actually using more energy. So we are going backwards slightly with our energy. So we're going to need to deal with that one. But at this stage, it's not dramatically bad. We'll have to sort of deal with that one though over time. So that's the assets. Just have a quick look at that one. Go to the model. Now, what I like to do with the models is click on all and just get all of them selected. There's going to be a couple of pages of different models. And really what we want to have a look at here is how viable our actual weaponry is. And you look at that by clicking on the Design tab. And what you're looking for here is things that are either close to 100 or over 100. And this is a number that ranges between 70 and 130. It's going to be some sort of random number in there. This is structural design. Structural design never changes. So if you've got like a very weak unit, for example, our flak guns are weak, our trucks are weak as well. Not that neither of those matter that much. The machine gunner and their grunts are also fairly weak and in the low 90s. So I prefer to have these up around the 100% mark or higher. The recon buggies are 102, which is okay. The anti-tank guns are 108. Let's go to the next page over. Our tanks are terrible at 88. And the artillery is it's fairly average at 97. That's the first number that we want to be evaluating. These tanks are atrocious. So, and we're going to be wanting to get tanks fairly early on in the game, and I don't want to be using these tanks at 88. The next one we see across here is our base design. And so the base design is a number between 70 and 100. And so the average for that one is 85. And so if they're around about 85, it just means that that's okay. This one will improve slowly over time as we have different things in the field to get field testing. So at this point in time, our models are terrible overall. Like these are really, really bad. We're going to be relying very heavily on grunts and machine guns, and these are not performing at all. And so we're going to have to get a model design council in fairly early to try to correct these. So that's something we're going to have to sort of look at. Another thing we want to have a quick look at is to see what they've actually got. So we just go click on the grunts. These are using Enviro suits, and because of their low structural quality, instead of it being around 60, it's a little bit lower. It's only 56, and their actual combat power will be a bit lower than what it should be because of these lack of abilities. So these are fairly poor. They do actually have good base design, so the base design is actually sort of working in fairly well through that side. So at least we have a fairly solid aspect in terms of base design. But the structural design means we're going to have to completely throw away the way that we actually build our grunts or our infantry and build a completely new infantry to sort of replace what we actually have there. So the Model Design Council is, I can tell just by these numbers that we need to then go and act on those fairly soon, not immediately. Another thing I like to look at I'll just go back to quality back and through this other side is we're going to have an ultralight. We should have them actually on the map. Now I'm looking, if I go and click on this one here, I want to see how many hexes it can actually then operate. And so this one here, it can operate a, where's its range? The range is 10 hexes. Pretty much anything over about 6 or 7 hexes is okay. 10 is okay. So 10 hexes means that this one would be fairly useful for us. If it was low, like let's just say it was 5 or under, I know I'm not going to ever use it. And so I would then close down my airport, my airfield, and just stop paying for it and just let it disintegrate away. So but in this case at 10, it's sort of viable, and I'm getting a fair bit of fuel coming in. So when we go back to what we were looking at before with our assets, it's costing me 20 fuel to keep this airbase open. If my aircraft just wasn't viable at all, I'd be clicking on it. I'd then be clicking on close because I don't want it. But in this case, at range 10, it's viable. If I don't think I'm ever going to use it, I could ditch my aircraft and mothball it, which means that it doesn't actually take any damage. If I close it, it slowly takes damage turn after turn until eventually it just disintegrates and it's completely gone. But in this case, I'm just going to leave that one where it is because we probably will have to make use of these aircraft in this first part of the first phase of the game. So we'll just go back to the models. So the models are actually, so we've now had a bit of a look at those. They're all pretty damn poor, to be honest, so that's a bit of an issue. The next one is the leaders. Now what we want to do through here is we want to see high capabilities. Capability means the ability to learn. It's when they get experience, they learn from the experience. And so they pick up skills very, very quickly when they've got high levels. We really want to be focusing on anything that's got tech level 3 or greater. Now we have a very high tech level 4 here, sorry, a capability level 4 of the governor of Jupiter. So Alex, so this means a governor is going to be fairly good. We've got a director of the Supreme Command Council at 3, which is okay. The commander of the first SHQ is terrible. He, unfortunately, with the little stars, means that he's actually somebody in charge of the actual government, or that particular group of the government. This is another one that's part of the same party. The advisor that we have is only a cap level 1, so terrible. He's also a leader of one of the parties. There's another member of the party back into this other side. These guys aren't attached to anything. So unfortunately, our actual units in through here are very, very poor. By the way, you'll notice that there's now new graphics available for, and these are really, really good. There's very, very good graphics now for the portraits. I'll show you how to turn them on. I should have done that in the last episode, actually. I'll just go back out to the map view, go to preferences. Actually, make sure that you're first of all playing the beta at this stage anyway. It will become part of the actual game very, very soon, I would think, but make sure you're playing the open beta to allow it. Go to preferences, new graphics at the bottom, and turn on both of these. If you're not seeing the new graphics, it means you're not playing with the open beta version. So you need to turn that one on in Steam and under betas, and then you can actually then go and turn on those new graphics. Anyway, let's not click on that one through there. We'll just go back to our management screen. So we've got some pretty poor units, to be honest. I don't care too much about the actual people in charge of the military. Our reserve pool member, unfortunately, is also very, very poor. Usually I'd be wanting someone fairly good in this for this particular role. So if you have a look at Banshee and through this other side, what's her skill levels? She does have some intelligence, but she's not going to learn very quickly. If I would ideally love to have somebody like use her for one of the technology type areas. She does have a little bit of a skill because of her abilities in this particular region, but overall she's not that great. She does have improvisation, so this helps the leader in question make a skill roll on a skill she doesn't master very well. If any skill roll is made on a skill with a value of 15 or lower, the improvisation adds a small bonus. That's useful. So this one sort of makes it so she is actually viable to then come in and be put in charge of one of the technology type aspects of what we actually require. So I'm thinking I might actually use her for that. So I'll probably bring her in as one of either the Economic Council or the Military Research Council, either one of those two. So let's just go, and she's really the only one we really have to be having a close look at. Secretary is level 2. Not really worth having a look at. The Supreme Command Council, let's have a quick look at him at tech level 3. He does have good covert ops, so eventually we could move him across into like a spy council, but that would be later on in the game. Everything else is just okay. He'll be okay. Will learn reasonably quickly at capability 3. And then finally we have the governor, and he has got very, very good skills in through here. So he does actually have medical. He's a very good governor, actually. He's going to be exceptionally good in control of our city, and this is actually a good thing. He also has good oratory, so he's going to be awesome. This is actually one of these things where he'd be good in a lot of different places, but as the governor, he's only very young as well, but he will be awesome at this. Unfortunately, he doesn't like autocracy at all, so we're going to have to be very careful with our decision making around what we do with him. So he is our most important unit at this stage. Unfortunately, our commander, he does have some skills. He's only 18 years old, but he's in charge of pretty much everything that we're doing at this point in time. So he does have some high command skills, doesn't have any administration skills, so he's going to be a bit of a problem ultimately. So he's been somehow, I don't know how an 18-year-old has been put in charge of the government, but that's what's happened in this particular instance. So he's probably, this is the faction leader of the Popular Society. And so we can sort of, the other one that's in charge as well is the Armed Humanist Front, is the other, and this one's 68. So he's going to retire at some point. capability 1. He's not going to learn very much at all. So we'll just leave him alone. But eventually he'll retire in the near future, I would guess. So other things we actually have. Now, I would love to see if we could get another, like if we go back into, just back into the map. We don't have to look at the other things too much. If we just go back into the map and through here, for example, I'll just go and get rid of that one, deselect that one through there. The decisions that we actually have, so we do actually have this, in this case, so we get enforcement, we can sort of make that one go higher. And both of these will actually, their attachment to us will go up if we do that. So I think we'll just go and do this. It's a bit of a no-brainer to always just follow what the most people want in terms of these profiles. So I won't go through what the profiles are in this episode. We'll just go and select that one. We then actually have the organisation decisions. Now we can see from what we had, I do need to get a model design counsellor in at some point. I would love to do that one. I've got to be careful what I spend in through here. I've got 13 political points to spend. 4 of them come off to here, so I've got 9 left after that one through there. The unit decisions in through here. I've got another +6 in through this other side with this particular commander to get an elite sniper. And so these then aid the actual units that they're going into. I think I'll just go and do that one. This is where commerce goes up, and this person here will actually have a pro-commerce aspect to them to make it so that they actually want you to choose this one through here. So we'll just go and choose that one just to get him, so he's more attached to us from that decision. And so we're left with this new organisation. Now we've got 4, so I've got essentially 8 left over. Let's have a quick look at our strat cards and go to nation. We can recruit a junior for 7. Let's do it just in case we end up with someone better than what we actually have available. So we'll grab the junior and execute the stratagem.
Roger that.
And so we've now got a new person that's now come into our pool. Just go back into the management screen. Unfortunately, a tech level 1. So going to be terrible. Mary is just a 24-year-old with no skills whatsoever. So unfortunately not really going to be of any value to us for anything. So she's a shocker, an absolute shocker. Yeah, so she'll end up just dissolving away, basically. She'll just sit in the reserve pool for the rest of her life, unfortunately, until she rebels, which she may do, because I don't like sitting in there for too long. I can't think of anything at all where we can actually use her. She's got no redeeming skills at all. Really bad strength, really bad intelligence. War skills are actually okay. Charisma is terrible. Willpower is okay. Won't learn anything. Just a shockingly bad unit. So anyway, that's just the way that the numbers roll. So we're going to have to make use of this Cap 2. Banshee Bolton is going to have to, I think, take over our military research initially, and then we'll move her across into something else, something different. We'll probably have to. Well, she's also a member of the Popular Society. So anyway, let's just get out of that one. So we now have a bit of a feel as to what's going on. We can have a quick look at our tech levels, things that we may want to get. I think we're going to be okay with having where is it? We should have the where is it? Solar energy. We've got solar energy. It's going to be fine. So we don't need to worry about going for power plants. There's no reason for us to bring the economic counsellor in just yet. I think military counsellor is going to be the guy. And then when we find someone better, we'll then sort of switch them into that particular role. So we'll just go across back to the map. And so when we go back to our decisions, I think military research is now going to be the best one for us in this particular instance. We could go interior council. We could do that one so that she can then try to get the taxation up. Yeah, let's do that instead, actually. Let's go to the Interior Council. This one here will then work with your taxes and so on and so forth. And again, if you have a quick look at that, at her again, your trade is up. Look, she'll be okay in that role, and we won't have to get rid of her from that role either. So let's just bring her in that role. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get the taxation up so we can get the credits, and we'll have a look and see what that is as well right now. So we'll actually go back to the map, just because we don't have anyone that's any better for anything else. So we'll just go and go to the Interior Council and add them in. Now, it's sometimes it's a good idea to go that way, sometimes it's not. It used to be a bit of a no-brainer to always go for the Interior Council, but no longer. That has now changed. If I just go back into our reports, now, if you go to the overview, this one here is vitally important to sort of see what does actually happen with what you're doing. We've only got one more political point left, unfortunately, at this point in time. Not that we need it for anything else. But in this case, we are respected with our word score. As we come back down, the important things is to see we've got our start credits in through here. If we go to the Treasury cash flow overview, we should then start to sort of see what we're likely to sort of then go and get. So we're likely to get 105 credits of revenue, but we're going to get 146 credits of expense, which means that we're going to be losing about 50 per turn. So that's what we can expect at this point in time. If I can get my taxation up, the taxation is currently at 20%. Income tax. We're going to be wanting to get that one higher just so we can get more revenue coming in. And so that will be important to us. Let's go and just press number 1 to bring back our units now, and we'll start to sort of now move these across. And one thing I'd like to do before that one is just to look at my strategic map and just see what's around me. Now, we've got the Afarian Republic over on this other side. This is this would be a good one for us to take over. Possibly farmers, so it could be a fairly easy one for us to take with. We've got Vidic Sefel in through this other side as well. These are leadership is unknown in through here, some sort of minor regime, so they're on the other side of us. Now that's interesting. We don't actually have any. Do we have any? I don't know if we've got any roads that lead off that way. And then we've got we've got then basically non-aligned forces is down below us, but that's where the road goes, I think. Hang on, let's have a bit of a look. Yeah, the road goes off this way, but we're not likely to sort of see too much else this side. So I want to just gobble up the territory that's here. There's no screaming rush to go and get that. But one thing what I want to also do is when I see cities, I want to grab them as fast as I possibly can. Because when we go and get a new free town like both of these, it means that we're going to ultimately end up with getting some random resources the next turn. So let's just move these ones down. Now, we've just got ambushed, and we just lost a heap of our units. Okay, I was going to say this is dangerous to do it, but I should have just done that one in bit by bit. Yeah, that was stupid actually. So we'll just keep on grabbing these. Yeah, that was a really stupid thing to do. So don't do that. Yeah, that's something that often people get confused with. I can just keep on moving. I don't have to wait for, I don't have to just tell it to go anywhere. I'm assuming I'm going to be okay here, but again, if I'm unsure, I can just keep on moving my way up and just take all of those. I'm going to keep green basically down in this other side. So we've got some like marauders or things that the free folk marauders back in through here. So they've actually just come into this other side. The artillery, I'll be wanting to sort of bring the artillery down onto the roads, ultimately. These I'm just going to, now we can see there's a road there. I want to sort of start to move across the road. So just push the borders back everywhere we can. I'll just move this one up into that other location. Bring all of these colours together. I want to keep all of the same types of units together. We want to follow this road through, find out where the actual city is that they're actually set up from, so we can sort of figure out how to attack it. We then have another one which has got 20 back in through this other side. We're just going to move that one down. This one actually does have artillery as well. I think I'll just move it on the road. These are good for just expanding the territory, so we'll just move them down into here. There's another special location. We can't quite get that one. Just push these back. I don't have to do all in one go. I shouldn't have done that. That was really, really stupid. I'm going to keep my artillery. Sorry, what is it? I've still got this one here. I'll just move this one down as well. Because we've got a road, it means it's going to ultimately end up at a different location that would be viable for us. You've got the flak guns, and we then have our aircraft. Now the aircraft use a different type of flight model. They have either air attack or air recon. And so air recon is done at high range, whereas the air attack is done at low range. So we want to know what we're going up against if we're going to be using this. I'm not going to use this one initially. Actually, what I could do, I might just do an air recon. And I'm going to do an air recon. I can go all the way out to here to do air recons. Let's just see what we can find deeper into this sort of territory down in this side where the road actually does extend to. So we'll just do the air recon. There's nothing underneath where we were. Oh, that's interesting. So we've now found, if we just press number 1, we've got a little village there. And this village is, if we have a quick look at what Picard is, well, it's unknown actually what it actually is in through there as well as the assets. Actually, that is the actual place. And so this is the Epheron Republic. And so that's actually their capital. That should then get a bigger number next turn. But that's actually what we've now discovered with the aircraft. You can see the range of the aircraft, depending on what foliage is there, we'll see further out when it's flat and lower when there's actually foliage to stop it from effectively doing its recon. Okay, that's sort of done all those. I'm going to sort of change a few things, but I think I'll actually leave this episode here. There's still one more thing I want to do. Actually, I might just do it and then explain it a bit more later on. At the moment, because I've turned on my logistics, I can see, if I just press number 1, I can see that logistics is going absolutely everywhere. I've got 2,400 starting from Jupiter. It then goes off into 4 different locations. It splits up that 2,400 4 different ways. Some of it bounces back from these two and then continues on in the other sides, but we really don't have much going along the roads. I don't need logistics going back out to here. So I'm going to turn off those logistics, and I'm going to turn it off here as well because I don't need anywhere near as much going through. If I go back to this mode in through here, the map layers mode, under logistics, if I go down to, for example, initial points, we'll turn on these things where there's different what are called pull points coming in. This one requires 100, this one requires 115 because of the other units around it. And that's all we really need to worry about. This one requires 215 as well. So there's different logistic requirements for these locations because of what they are. This is going to get confusing. I'll do a much deeper dive later on in the actual series. But I just want to make sure that we're not wasting all the logistics. Here we don't need 600 going in there. We only need 115. That's all we actually require to go back in there. So to change that, I then just go back to my to these orders in through here, and we just go down to traffic signs. So this allows you to place and remove traffic signs, and we're going to tell this town what to do. Again, we don't need 500 going or 300, whatever it is, going into there. I need more going along that road. So I'm going to go into my main town. I click it a second time. It then opens up this traffic signs dialog. Now, I'm going to open up pull points. So I almost wish it was by default pull points were turned off because you always want them going through, pretty much. I can't think of a reason that you wouldn't want them going through. But in this case, we want the pull points to get through. We want to block everything else. So I don't want it going off in that direction. We'll block that one. We don't want it going off in that direction. We'll block that one as well. I want them split this way. So at this stage, we're going to have equal numbers. I can then change the amount that gets sent through these different locations, but I'll just keep it that way. So just go back. So that now in our future, if we go back to having a look at, this is the initial points. If we look at the preview points, it's now got 200 going to there and 115 going into this one in here. So we've got just enough to do what we have to do in these locations. We now have a lot more coming out this other side. We've got 900 logistics going down through here, and we have 1,000 going to there, but then splitting at that point. Again, we don't need it there. So let's just go and click on this one through here, allow the pull points through, but block everything going to the south. So except for pull points. So we just go back, and now only 100 is going to go through. And now we have 1,000 moving across here. I'll talk about this in much deeper depth like later on when we're trying to sort of organize our logistics. But very basically, I do like to do this where I've got my main thrust going along the main roads with all of the logistics other than the stuff that we have to have going back into assets. So that's fine for where we actually have everything going at this point in time. There's other things I could do. The logistics only have to go through. They don't get used up by these assets. They just have to go through. I could do even better by building a little road down this way and then blocking this off completely, so that nothing goes into this particular location, and that way all of that logistics would then flow through there, including the 200 that's required to go to that particular location. I'll leave it where it is for now, but that's something we could do just to maximise it a little bit in the future. The rest of it's actually all okay. Now, one of the things we've got a bit of a problem with industrial points. Actually, I will continue on just playing a little bit longer because we have to figure out what to build. That's the other thing we have to do before we can really end our turn. Now, if we don't build anything, it just means we get to save our industrial points and our metal. We don't have any of the machines fitting through here. Have a bit of a look. If anything's going backwards, like for example, if the energy was going backwards, that would be an issue for us, and so we'd need to then sort of figure out what to do about that. But in this case, we don't actually have anything that's really standing out as being a problem for us. Another thing I might just quickly do is just go back into my trade and see if we can sell off anything. Sometimes you will be able to sell off water initially. We don't have any problems at all with water, so let's just go in and sell off as much as we can just to get more money in. This is going to very quickly become where no one wants any water because of the rainfall on the planet, but right now we can get away with it. So I can sell off pretty much everything we have. We've got 3,000. I can sell off a lot of that. The traders have got 1,147, so I'm in the sell area. Let's sell the water.
Copy that.
What else should we sell? Food. Food is actually reasonable as well at this point in time. We don't want to sell off heaps of it, but we're actually making a lot. So we could sell off as much as what they'll buy at 0.97 credits. So that's going to give us another 382.
Copy that.
And fuel I won't sell. Metal I won't sell, and rare metals I won't sell at this stage. We're going to need them. So if we now go back to buy, if I just close this one down, we then can get a summary. This will then update. So if we just go and cancel, we've now got 1,225. For building anything, we're going to need machinery. So if we have a look, for example, inside Jupiter, and just click on Jupiter, and then just go across to construction. And the things I like to look at initially at the very start of the game is to look at the government buildings and see what's available to me. Now, the name of the game is bureaucratic points, and so 200 when we get to civilization level 2. To get to there fast, we need to get quality of life things. We need to get things, for example, like the hospital, the barracks. Now, we saw there before when we were looking at it, we do actually have security points anyway, so we don't need the security points. But getting the health points would be good. We already have, we've got schools coming in, so we're getting education points, but we don't have any health points. So this is good for us. It doesn't require any actual machinery. The high command will also then give us a bit of a boost, but it's going to cost a lot in energy. So I think I'll actually focus on the hospital. This will be done in 2 rounds. I can look at other things as well, like industry. We can build an ammunition factory as well. It's going to require 2 machines for that one. Just 2 rounds with 1 machine in each round. The metals are not going to be quite where we need them for them to be able to build that one, but this is something that would be good to get fairly early on. So it does, it does produce, it does actually chew up a little bit of metal to have this thing operational, but it does produce ammo, which is actually important for us. It's one of these things I think would actually be good to get, actually, in hindsight, just looking at it right now, because we're going to be going through our ammo a lot in the early part of the game. So I think we may even go there on that side. I think we're not going to be able to afford this one. This is 4 rounds with 4 machines required. So metals are low. So actually I can't quite get that with the metals. If we go back to government, this one's 200. I have got enough metals to do this one. Let's go and grab that one now then in that case.
Copy that.
So we'll just get that one built. We don't want to be building too much. Unfortunately, the game doesn't update here. I wish it did, showing you that you've actually now taken different metals will not be available next turn. It doesn't give you any. I hope that at some point Vic does change that, just so it's a bit more easy to understand. Let's just go back to and press L, which will then just get back to our normal logistics. This is our current logistical situation. that's pretty much the turn that we need to then go and do. I'm going to call it quits here, and then in the next episode we'll then come back through and start to then play the actual game. It'll speed up a lot more now, but this first round does require a lot of to and fro to just get things working. So that will be okay where we are. Just press number 1, so we've got our units back in again. I'll talk more about units as well, as to why they're doing different things and how they work, how we can sort of make the best of them, all sorts of different things. So we'll do a deep dive in each episode. I'll try to give it at least some sort of theme as to the way what we focus on. We did a lot in this episode though. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.